Hello everyone, new analyst autistic pony here, saying it so you don't have to. Today, for my first video, I'm here to look into the minds of the main six. Or rather, I'm here to ask, do each of the main six in the show have some type of neurological disorder? Now, before I go on, let me just say, I do not, by any means, say this in an offensive way. In fact, I mean it in a more positive light. Personally, I see the show My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic as a great show for people with neurological as well as physical handicaps. I myself, as a person with Asperger syndrome, got into the show because I could relate to the characters, not so much because of their strengths, but because of their weaknesses, whether it be Pinkie Pie's hyperactivity, Fluttershy's dissocialness, or Rarity's tendencies to feel like everything must be perfect. However, the one character who stood out the most to me and got me the most invested in this show next to Applejack was Twilight Sparkle, who this first video will be about. To me, she always came off as a character who might have a high-functioning form of Asperger's syndrome, like myself. Of course, when I say might, I mean we will never know for sure. Since the show is a kid's show, and since the world of Equestria seems to lack the technology necessary to diagnose someone with such high-functioning autism, it is likely that we will never know for sure whether she does or does not have autism spectrum disorder, or ASD for short. Now, for those of you who don't know, ASD is a form of a mental disorder that affects a person in a way that makes it harder for them to socialize, make friends, and oftentimes not easily pick up any social cues other people might take for granted. You can look up a better definition yourself, but the Wikipedia definition of autism is a neurological disorder that is characterized by impaired social interaction, verbal and nonverbal communication, and by a restricted and repetitive behavior. So, does Twilight qualify enough to fit this description? Well, since the show can't confirm or deny this, so instead she would be what I would consider a closed autistic character, meaning she might have ASD and have the symptoms, but it can neither be confirmed nor denied if she does or doesn't. Many other famous examples of closed ASDs in fiction would be Sherlock Holmes, Phineas and Ferb, even SpongeBob SquarePants if I think about it. As for open ASDs, well, I'll save them for another video. For now, let's just focus on Twilight Sparkle. No, not that one. The one that doesn't bite. And unlike many open ASDs in fiction I know, I believe Twilight would work wonderfully as an autistic character because, one, she's likable, and two, a lot of her actions aren't for the sake of being antisocial, but because she would rather spend time learning and impressing her mentor than a group of friends. In fact, while she has grown close to the rest of the main six by Pilot's end, a lot of her desire to finally learn how to make friends comes more from an order from Celestia, though it could be argued strongly that she would have stuck by them anyways. Now with that out of the way, let's look at the biggest pieces of evidence. Lesson 0. In it, we see Twilight at her worst when she freaks over the smallest things, whether it be cupcakes not being evenly frosted, having to list out her day event by event, and freaking out to the point of nearly destroying the entire town just to get her homework in on time. As a person with ASD, I can relate to this behavior in high school, freaking out if things weren't perfect, overworked whenever a homework assignment got behind, the list goes on. And even to the point of talking to myself sometimes when the stress gets to me. And I've seen many ASDs in my special ed class act a similar way. And now, while not all ASDs are the same, this trait of freaking out, as we've seen in Lesson 0 and It's About Time, are the most commonly seen aspects within the autism community. Now, however, just because someone easily flips out over something doesn't mean they have a neurological disorder. I've seen plenty of normals, as I like to call them, who get just as easily, if not more so, frustrated over trivial things that don't go their way. It doesn't mean they're ASD or OCD or anything special, it just means that they're a person. So, with that said, does this make Twilight Sparkle a pony with ASD? Well, as stated, there's no way we can know for absolutely sure whether or not she is. However, if Twilight were an ASD character, then I would consider one of the greatest autistic characters in fiction, because she would be an autistic character who has lots of flaws that come with being an ASD, but an individual that pushes past those flaws, who does try to do better, who learns from her mistakes and how to make and keep friends despite these challenges, and rises to the top in greatness not in spite of her handicap, but because of it. But what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with me? Did I miss any pieces of evidence? And since I have you, what do you think might be the neurological disorders of the rest of the main six? Write a comment below, and thanks for watching. Now I just gotta figure out how to use Google Docs and get myself a darn cutie mark. See you around. So frustrated.